Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Vibe Exchange, where we explore the intersect and the connection between construction and technology. Today, I'm here with a dear friend of mine, Jeremy Moody. Jeremy leads growth at TeleDataCom, a structured cabling and a low voltage partner serving GCs, owners, direct clients, and IT teams all across Rochester, Buffalo, and Western New York. Today's conversation will explore how TDC is helping builders future-proof their infrastructure. It's going to talk about what great collaboration between GCs, low voltage subs, and integrators should look like in real projects, and how owners can think strategically about their pathways, fiber, and network-ready buildings to really future-proof themselves from day one. Jeremy Moody, welcome to the show, my man.
Joe, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Ever since I met you, man, you were always a true professional and have quite the personality as well. So thanks for having me on your show. This is great, an opportunity to talk about things that aren't always talked about in an environment like this. So thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Happy to have you. I'm looking forward to today's convo. So I like to start the conversation off in every episode with the same question. Jeremy, what's the vibe in your world and in the low voltage industry right now?
Yeah, so we're a regional network cable installation company. So at TeleDataCom. So I just reflect on what's going on in Western New York right now. Obviously, in Western New York, we've got the Buffalo Bills Stadium is going up in Buffalo. There's a bunch of infrastructure from a network infrastructure enhancements going on across the state, including schools updating their projects, and a couple large companies, large lawyer firms coming into Buffalo and Rochester. Those are the main cities that we do work in. So
Yeah.
our industry is pretty jam-packed right now. Resources are a little slim from the installation standpoint, but it's exciting. It's an exciting time.
It definitely is. I agree. But for listeners, Jeremy, who may not know exactly what low voltage is, how would you describe low voltage in just like simple terms? And then why would it be essential, as I know it is, but why is it essential for pretty much every modern day project?
Sure. I think that, somebody who's more familiar with what we're doing would understand that, every wireless connection does travel on a wire at some point. But to just be really frank with that, with the increase of connectivity, everything's on the internet, whether it's on Wi-Fi or wired in, all the different devices, HVAC controls, audio, internet. And so, low voltage network cable installation is literally the infrastructure in an environment that allows that wireless to work at its maximum capacity, and allows all the other edge devices to work simultaneously and at the same time. Um, and yeah, so a lot of those things go unseen. They're behind the walls. So we're definitely in the construction industry, and we tie into the IT. We make the IT dreams a reality by giving it a pathway for with it to travel from the IT closets out to the end devices.
Yeah, you're the wires behind the wall to make everything look pretty because that's what clients want. They want to come in, they want like one little button to just press and everything just works beautifully. Well,
Yeah,
behind the
nobody wants to see the
scenes,
wires. You're right.
no one wants to see the wires,
Nope.
and that's what you guys get to do. But
Yes, that's what we do.
how did you, if you're willing, tell us a little bit about like how you actually got into this and just your path into the low voltage world, where you are.
Yeah. So just real briefly, I spent 15 years with a major global corporation, sales and customer service, with a customer service first approach, where we always put customers and employees first and then profits would follow. And I just felt like it was a natural parlay into working at TeleDataCom that, over 40 years in business now, and our owner is still here. And with that approach, it was a natural fit for me. I've been here for 4 years now. And so learning the IT side of things was certainly new to me, but it wasn't new to the construction field. So marrying those two together, and giving me the opportunity to meet a lot of really cool people. There's a lot of nerds in our industry, but there's a
Yes,
lot of
there
really
are.
cool things happening. And so it's great to be a part of it, however small or big of a piece I get to play. So yeah, that's just a kind of a brief intro to how I got where I'm at now.
Love it. And I like what you said. If you're in our industry and you think everyone else is a nerd, then you're probably the nerd, actually, just to say. So, but that's okay, man. I get it. I geek out over some stuff and my wife's just like, what are you talking about? We're just at a restaurant. I know. I'm like, but yeah, but look at the wires and the cameras and the speakers. And anyways, nerd out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so tell me, how does Tel Datacom, like, obviously, there's a partnership that has to go on with GCs and probably like directors of IT or IT teams to kind of get on the same page and get the ball rolling or get a package together. Talk to me about that. Like, how do you go about partnering with a GC or a head of IT to make their dream come true?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I think, ultimately, depending on the size and the scope of the project, there's so many different approaches. And a lot of times it feels like the more professionals you throw at it, the better the outcome should be. However, that's not always the case if
Most
you don't have excellent coordination.
Hmm,
Um,
that's good.
Certainly
Yeah.
architects and engineers and owners. But involving the IT team would be why one suggestion early on, because the IT directors sometimes don't get thought of until a little later on in the project in terms of what they desire, how it's going to connect into their system, what systems they're running currently. And it's all going to run on their network, or
Right.
maybe it's a separate network. Um, and so certainly our place that we fit in would be different in any of those different scenarios, depending on the size and the scope. But certainly we're talking about larger, more enterprise style installations.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, that's good. So it's ideally in an ideal project scenario, your TDC is getting in alignment with the cabling, the AV, the IT, and then obviously the GCs for the construction side, making sure everything's in alignment, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And so, typically when we get brought in, if there is an owner or a consultant that is kind of putting everything together, they'll bring us in to show us the designed intent.
Hmm.
They have, generally speaking, here's generally where we're going to need devices and need things. And then when they ask for a consultative approach, again, depending on their level of skill or expertise, but regardless, we're going to be the ones on site. A lot of these engineers and designs take place off site. So what I'm speaking of here would be in something that is being, currently a building that's being restored or
Hmm.
adding additional cables to it. We're going to get on
Hmm.
site. We're going to take a look and see what's intent and what's reality, and communicate that as efficiently and effectively as possible. And a lot of times those professionals will just say, "Hey, you're the professional, just do it."
Yes.
But sometimes they want to know to make sure they're not overpaying for something they don't need,
Totally.
or to make sure that they are not missing something that they should have. And so having the right person in the middle of that conversation makes sense. Sometimes it's us, sometimes it's the IT director, sometimes it's a consultant. All depends on the scenario. But yes, we get on site and we make the dreams, bring it down to reality. But then also sometimes we have to stretch a little and make it actually work.
Yeah. Yeah. Making it work.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
fine balance between reality and making it work. That is for sure. Jeremy, I'm hearing future ready infrastructure. I'm hearing a lot about this term. And then obviously I'm more on the AV side, also deal a lot with construction. But a
mhm,
big thing out there and a big just kind of catchphrase, whether people know what it means or not, is future ready. What does that
mhm.
mean to you? What does it look like in your world?
Yeah. I think future ready would mean when you're installing, whether it's pathway or fiber or copper, that you are planning for, the next 10, 15, 20 plus years down the road. Now you want to be careful, and I'll speak to, we got on site for a customer that about 10, 15 years ago, they thought it was ingenious to be future proof and run fiber to all of their end devices. That
Wow.
wasn't the right move. They thought they were being smart,
Yeah.
but that was overkill.
Yeah.
And that the money spent for end devices didn't make sense. So we ended up pulling that out and reinstalling copper to end devices. So you want to make sure that you're not going too far in advance and kind of
Yeah.
overstepping. But pathway makes sense. Make sure your data needs are where they need to be. 10 gig on Cat 6A cabling from a end device use. I think that that's probably good for the next 15, 20 years for most use cases. You get in some really high data situations in closets and whatnot where you need the fiber.
Hmm.
But pathway is important. There's fill ratios when you install in J hooks, conduit, and tray. You should be only using 25% of tray, leaving the rest for future. And you're only using about 60% of J hooks or less, leaving at least 40% for future. And that's some of the things that are behind the walls that people don't necessarily see. Also, you
Yeah.
don't tightly bind the cable or the fiber. That way you can pull new in when you leave jet line. So making things easy for
Yeah.
expansion doesn't cost any more,
Hmm.
or it's
Right.
very marginal.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Right.
yeah, but thinking about those things, and again, having the conversation, hey, this is all we're going to need to do right now, but that changes in 2 years. All of a sudden, they're rethinking their strategy of, saving
Hmm.
every penny. So just having the conversation again, briefly, making sure somebody thought about it. That's all.
That's good. Just thinking about it, and even thinking about like what could I possibly need in the future, or where might technology be going, and what can I do during the design phase, during the creative phase, while the walls are open phase, to set myself
Yes.
up best for that. That's good. Um, Jeremy, the least sexy uh, phrase in our industry, redundancy. Tell me about that, and do you think that that's important nowadays?
Yeah, again, I think that the use case would drive redundancy. When we're running, very high sensitive areas, cabling for, let's just say, cameras, for instance, in a New York State court environment, they're running dual Cat 6A cables to all of their cameras currently. Um, for redundancy. And now you might be referring to also redundant internet coming into a building or into a business. That is very important for businesses that need to make sure there's no downtime.
Hmm.
Um, and redundancy does need to follow a completely separate pathway. Doesn't make sense if it comes in on the same line of transmission, even if it's with the same carrier. It does need to follow a separate. If you have for instance, an accident outside and brings down a pole, if it brings down that fiber line and that brings down all your redundancy, well, that wasn't really redundant, was it?
Right. Wow.
So
Right.
again, there's
Wow. Yeah.
consultants that look at that for you to see where those things are coming in from. And sometimes people are being charged for a redundant line and it's on the same line. It's just two separate services and it doesn't really give them that protection. So again, yes, it's important use case. And somebody that is knowledgeable to understand where that's coming from, it makes sense to have them look into that for you if
Mhm.
you're questioning about redundancy in your scenario.
Jeremy, what advice would you have for, let's say, builders, sub tiers, and just clients in general who want fewer surprises and better outcomes with their project?
Yeah. So, I think involving IT is very important early on in your design and construction phase. Obviously, you want the end user involved and who it's actually affecting and who's going to be using the technology that's being put in place.
Right.
Um, and then engaging the low voltage contractor um, early on as well. It doesn't have to be something that is obsessed about or go through all the finer details, but making sure that they're kind of along for the ride. A good low voltage installation contractor will offer up, free, you know, consultative advice as you're going through. And it may not be necessary in the design phase, but it certainly is very important when it comes into the installation phase. So having them evolve in the design phase, um, avoids surprises down the road, aka Edwards vacuum cleaner. Right now we're doing some installations out there, and one of their locations um, is quite expensive because it was something that was not thought about until very late in the phase, and it just happens to be with the fact there's several 10-inch steel girders that the cable has to go through. So now we're making some design adjustments, but after the fact, it's a little more expensive than if it was done earlier on. So if we were brought in earlier in that case, we could have saved a little bit of headache. So early and often, as far as communication goes, and finding the right person that's going to have the right conversations, not over communicate something that's not necessary.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's important. Having the right person involved early on.
Now, TeleDataCom, and thank you for that. I think that's the appropriate and the even though it's not the most exciting fireworks answer, it's the right answer. It really is just getting it, and it oftentimes seems like, well, yeah, of course. But most I found, even personally, like what you said, most clients, um, for whatever reason, don't take the time to figure out everyone who should be involved and who the end users will be, and take the time to get them together. Because sometimes that can be hard to get so many different people together and align their schedules and get everyone's input on on how this is going to work and all that kind of stuff. And I guess it can be kind of chaotic. But like you said, the best answer is to get the right people involved at the right time, which is in the beginning. Totally.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
now tell Medicom's been in business how many years again?
Just over 40. I want to
Oh, so
say, yeah. 1980, so 42 years.
So the company's seen a lot of things. It's seen a lot of
Oh, yeah.
things, seen trends come and go.
Yeah.
Um, so in that light, let's say over the next, let's say 3 to 5 years, because we could, could always look further out. Let's just say 3 to 5 years. How do you see the role of a consultant? Let's say let's just say low voltage consultant, because that's what we do. How do you see the role of a low voltage consultant changing on construction projects, like as commercial development continues to grow and change?
Sure. No, that's a great question, Joe. I think I've seen several projects in the last year or two that have taken this future approach of combining the installation for many different trades that run on this low voltage, and having a low voltage installation provider singularly handle the installation of at least the backbone and in the wiring, and you have paging systems. All of this again runs on low voltage. And so when you have all these different companies providing their installation, overlap is inconsistencies. There is added expense to having, you're going to have three, four, five different people up in the same pathway. Trying to keep that consistent is difficult. So I've seen consultants take all these trades, put it together, and I think that that's going forward where our role as an installation technician
Yeah,
company is valuable. So
I agree.
yeah.
So from your seat and from sitting where you are, what
Mhm.
separates just a check the box cabling job and planning job from a plan that actually truly sets a building up for the future?
Sure. I think that, option one would be something that's just, I guess just to focus more on the positive side of things would be something that's setting a building up for the future would be something that is truly meeting the needs of the end user, or the customer, or in a stadium, the user experience,
Hmm.
and enhances it in something that is not necessarily standing out as, um, you know, hey, look at that wiring job or that fiber job, but something that makes everything work seamlessly. Um, and I think that, having an installation partner that is going to make that conversation happen early, often, not slow down or delay the process, and not throw in wrenches that change up what the end intent is,
Yeah,
um, but that fit the building and fit the use case. Yeah, I think that having somebody, and then in the end, the deliverables, having full test results for everything that is going to deliver the highest data delivery to every device, with an as built that's going to give a customer the detailed description of everything that they have installed, and then obviously a neat and orderly workplace and closet, something that can be expanded on in
yeah,
the future, can be troubleshot very easily. Some of these things, again, they go unnoticed and unseen until there's an issue, until there's a problem.
that's good. That's I mean that's you hit the nail on the head. Yeah. Again, like some of these answers aren't the most exciting firework answers. It's just like wire and cat six aren't the most exciting things, but
Right.
they're the backbone. They're so important to every bit of infrastructure digitally in these buildings and even our communication. Like how we communicate with people across the world is so important. So I love these
Yeah.
answers. I mean, because they are what I would say if you ask 10 VPs or owners or GCs these questions, I think
Mm.
8 to 9 of them would know this. Whether we do it or not, we know this. So I love it.
Right.
I love it. Let me ask you this. Where are projects getting burned today? Like, is it in pathways, coordination, phasing? And if there is an area where we're seeing like maybe things are getting rushed or missed, just kind of in today's market for whatever reason, how are we coaching people and clients to kind of avoid these pitfalls?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Certainly in construction projects, there's so many different things that are happening. And so coordination of those efforts, on the GCs or whoever's handling it, the owners representatives, to ensure that each trade is given the adequate amount of time, space, and attention to get their section done correctly and done right. So I think specifically in our field, um, you know, when the network cable installation gets pushed to a not as important time slot, just due to other, construction timelines that get pushed, um,
Mhm.
that can cause, uh, that can cause some delays in the final product.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of the biggest area that I can think of, where we're getting burned.
Is it just like not, non-time, time frame alignment that, you know, set lofty expectations. I'm in sales and I am, to my best ability, I'm an honest Boy Scout. And every once in a while, I can paint this perfect imaginary picture because I truly believe that's going to happen.
Yeah,
And it may not happen exactly like that. You know what I mean? But I don't
yeah.
know. There's just so many areas, so many ways.
Yeah, no, I think, it comes down to, sometimes tighter timelines, whereas the end date doesn't necessarily adjust or change, and that's to be expected. Last minute changes, um, and
For sure.
really, I think it comes back down to maybe the person that really cares about how this is going to land on their system maybe was involved too late, so now they're making some adjustments on the fly as you go.
Hmm.
And I would push back towards, again, the IT director.
Yes.
In most
Yes.
scenarios, kind of gets tapped oftentimes a little too late. When they're involved early and often, um,
Agree.
that's great. We can sense the room right away when we could tell if an IT director has been involved, and
Yes.
is involved in the pre-phase, because then the installation phase goes that much easier. So yeah, I think the biggest issue is when an IT team is not consulted on early enough in the phase, then there's going to be delays.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. 100%. So in that light, let's say you had right now, let's say you're sitting in a room, really cool furniture, all that kind of stuff, fireplace, snow outside, all that cool stuff. But let's say we were in a room, a think tank full of developers, heads of IT, architects, etc. What's the one mindset shift that you push for around cabling and around networks?
I would say that it's not just wire, it's not just fiber. It's not the same as just pulling in copper for like a power, like an electrician would. And I know there are electricians that have low voltage departments that treat that separately, so that's not what we're talking about. Um, but um, it's something that you need to have a true professional making sure that that is not put down on the lowest end of your decision for the building or the project. Um, yeah, I think that, you know, certainly everybody understands their role in designing architecture,
Mhm.
the integrators, um, owners, developers of what they're trying to accomplish. So I would just say, whether that group is deciding to go with a bid scenario, in that regard, they need to have everything perfect. The scope defined exactly the way it should be. The
Mhm.
details, the accuracy needs to be dead on. Because if not, you're going to get a mess of responses that are going to be over, under different scopes,
Right.
things included, not included. Or if you're doing a design build scenario, obviously in that case, making sure you're teamed up with the right partner.
Yeah.
Or better yet, kind of marrying the two, having a consultant kind of come in between there, interview partners, bringing on the right partners, um, or maybe making changes for the partners that they bring in. That's what I would advise is, between the bid world or just selecting to use something. Certainly we have government contracts for a lot of our public work that we're able to utilize.
Mhm.
In those scenarios, I see TDC as having the most success with our projects coming in on time, on budget, fulfilling the need that is meant. Um, and most of the projects that are bid out fall under the same light as well. But
Mhm.
if it's bid out, again, that has to follow the specs that are given to everybody. So those may change a little bit as you go, but generally speaking, you're kind of held to a little different, a little different structure. So I would say, design build, whether you're using a third party consultant or you're
Mhm.
consulting with your network installation partner. I would like to say that that would be us in this situation. However,
Yeah.
we're not
That's good.
professionals with all the other things. We just make the connections.
Mhm.
So bringing us in, whether direct with an owner with a smaller project or with a larger project with a consultant that can kind of think outside the box and bring everything together, so that everybody gets what they want, and it's installed correctly.
Love it. Love it. Jeremy, I got one final question for you. And this has been great, man. I really enjoyed having you on the show. And I think people are definitely going to get some good value from this. Definitely some nuggets in this combo. But my
Yeah.
final question, and not trying to give any wins to competition or anything like that, but let's say some other integration companies, some tiers, some industry adjacent companies to TDC were listening to this. And because the company's been in business 40 years and almost 40 years. And I know you guys are obviously knowing you and the company, like you guys have a really good reputation in the region. And so what would be your one piece of advice for anyone listening to kind of establish their kind of brand and trust in their industry?
Sure. I think that that's probably the same answer I'd give anybody in any business is being an honest person, being professional in your field, being competent in the product that you sell or install, um, admitting what you know, and even faster, admitting what you don't know. Um,
Mhm.
Working like heck to figure out what you don't know if it applies to your job to do.
Mhm.
I would say that not being negative on your competition because
Mhm.
there's certainly a lot of good things that our competitors do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in business.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but certainly seeking to put our customers first and provide our customers with the best experience that they can possibly have, so that we're chose for the next project. Certainly, we most of our business is for repeat business or customer referrals. We
Mhm.
don't put a lot of money into marketing or cold calling per se. Um, and so I think that that's true for a lot of businesses, but specifically in our industry, having that reputation
Yeah.
goes a long way. And
Yes,
there's a
it
lot of
does.
work out there, and doing the right thing, even if it costs you in the end on one project. Um, you look at the bigger picture, and that's again one thing that TDC has always done. There's been a few times when the project has gone south, but to make things right, TDC has stepped up and
Yeah.
completed it.
Love that. Love it.
Even if it's been at our to our own demise, in the long run, the customer was satisfied, and we maintained our integrity. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Love
would
that.
say continuing on in that direction. A lot of the basic stuff. But I would say, if somebody's your competitor one day, they may be a partner the next.
Yeah.
We've had to partner up with a couple electricians to provide some outside pathway and underground and pole to pole, and that's been fantastic. Um, and we'll keep doing what we do best, and partner up with those who do what they do best.
Love
So,
that. Love it. Love it. But Jeremy, thank you so much. Really enjoyed having you on. How can people get in touch with you? Let's say someone needs help or just wants to keep in touch with what you're doing over at TDC and the projects you have going on. How can folks find you? How can they reach you?
yeah, awesome. Well, we've got a LinkedIn page. I think we're on Facebook as well. Somebody calling just now. 855-227-5800. You can reach me via email, jmoody@teledatacom.net.
So good. So good. Thank you so much for being on the show, man. Always a pleasure to see you. Always a pleasure to have you. And thanks for sharing wisdom. I hope people get a lot of value out of today's conversation. And for those of you who are watching or listening, thanks for joining this episode of the Vibe Exchange. Hope that you have major success along your journey, and we'll see you again soon.